Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iori Folani. Yesterday the news broke that the president is indeed, given the okay to implement the 12-year-old report of the Oronsaye, popularly known as the Oronsaye report. Well, our guest this morning is Prince Kasim Afebua, APC chieftain, policy analyst. A fine morning to you.
Thank you very much, Yori. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it's been 12 years in the making. As of January last year, somebody from the presidency, as it then was, the presidency of President Buhari, had said that, well, when you look at the body language of the National Assembly and the proximity to the elections, it wouldn't be possible for it to be implemented at the time. But here we are. Now the president has said full implementation to proceed, full blast. 12 weeks committee led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation to work it out. Your first reactions, Kasim?
Well, it is part of all the reforms that the president has been undertaking to set the country on the right path to growth and development. And don't forget that if you are looking for a courageous, bold president who has gotten gravitas and grit, I think President Tinubu is one. A document that was prepared as far back as 2012 is the one that has gotten the political will to implement, even if not all, at least is implementing it.
Yes.
Because whether you like it or not, you have to give him credit that he means well for the country. He's got political will to take decisions. He's bold, he's courageous, and he means well for the country. Things may not be rosy as we want to see them now, but they are not as a result of his inability to take decisions or to act. He inherited a lot of rots and decay, and to get the ball, to set the ball rolling, he needs to step on certain tools, take certain decisions, and consciously engage the populace. So
Indeed.
I want to commend the fact that he's gotten the political will to implement the Oronsaye report. But in doing the implementation, Yori, we have to also be conscious of certain things that were possible in 2012 that are not possible now. Certain, decisions or suggestions or recommendations in 2012 that may not be fitting and proper at this time. So I think the SGF and a couple of its members of the committee have been given 12 weeks. And
yes.
I hope that they will
work it out.
They'll be able to look at all of those issues and take the best out of that Oronsaye report.
Indeed. I tell you what, Kazim, give us one or two of that kind of instance that struck you that, look, back in the day, it might have been possible, but not anymore.
No, but you see, the point is the report talks about streamlining government towards running a lean government. I've looked at some of those parastatals and agencies, some to be subsumed, others to be merged. Essentially, you have to look at the existential threats that confront us now, the issues that dominate public discourse now and all of that, and look at agencies that will not create undue bureaucracy if they are subsumed within certain ministries or agencies or even departments of government. You see, it is easier to say we want to run a lean government. It's also easier for you to say you want to streamline, you want to subsume, you want to merge. But don't create too much of bureaucracy in that process, because decision-making process are better when it is less cumbersome in terms of reporting line, in terms of how and when, or how immediate you can snap your finger and the decisions are taken and all that. Because given the Nigerian nature, I think, aside from even merging all of these ministries, you need to reform the civil service. The civil service needs serious reform. Yeah, they need serious reform. Because a lot of our problem comes from sit-tight permanent secretaries who want to see every file that passes through their table. Some don't have a good relationship with their ministers. Some ministers want to walk. Their PAMSEC will be dragging them down. Right? So they say, we are the accounting officers, we are the boss and all that. You'll be shocked that money will come into ministry with respect to budget. A PAMSEC will sit down and award contracts without even the minister knowing. It's replete all over the place. I've seen cases, like that. I've seen complaints I've heard from my friends who are ministers, how some of their PAMSEC are sitting back and all that. So I don't want a situation where we will create too much of bureaucracy. Because once you create that, you give more powers to the PAMSEC, you give more power to the directors and what have you. It may slow down government business. It may slow down productivity. And that's why I would suggest that the president should also consider reforming the civil service. I was happy when he invited the PAMSECs last week to a meeting, to discussion, and to set his own agenda with respect to what he wants to see in the civil service. I just hope they're able to implement it, because by the time you take a stock of what transpires in different ministries, parastatals and agencies, see how much money these people acquire to themselves, how much money they've taken from our public till, you will wonder. So there's so much to be done. There's so much to be done. For me, it's not even about running lean government. It's not about slimming down government. It's about devising means and ways to ensure that you are able to lock up leakages. Corruption is the bane of most of the things we do. And so if we are able to streamline and, cover up leakages and ensure that it is difficult for people to just, plunge their hands into public till, the better for the system. Not so much about running lean government.
I imagine that this is going to be followed with a certain change of our disposition to things. It won't be business as usual, which is, if it were, those are the kind of things that you have highlighted right now in what you've just finished saying. That it's not going to be business as usual. This is a new day. You even spoke about perhaps even reforms. But even before we get to that, you've spoken about some of the things that could be problematic. But then, with the Secretary to the federal government in charge of the committee that has, that has 12 weeks to come up with how this can be implemented, the overall goal, among of which it has been said, is reducing the cost of governance. You've used the expression a leaner government. But we must watch out, is what you are counseling, that in going there, that we don't create other problems. But overall, it's a good thing, perhaps.
No, you can't take that away from President Tinubu. This is one president that doesn't care about whose horse is God when he wants to take decisions. You remember how he removed the subsidy. How people were complaining why he should have settled down. He should have settled down before he removed subsidy and all that. President Tinubu has got courage to take decisions. Very painful decisions, but at the end of the day, they will yield positive results for the entirety of the country. And even recently, as a consequence of this subsidy removal, for example, you see the kind of federal allocation that is being shared among all the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. 1.1 trillion, 1.2 trillion. It is the first time in the history of Nigeria with respect to allocation. So there is so much geometric increase in terms of what comes to states now. States that were earning 8 billion naira monthly, they are now taking home about 20 billion, 25 billion, 27 billion. But they are not working with this money. So rather than people complaining about federal government not doing this, not doing it. They should actually interrogate state governors. They should interrogate state governors. I was just reading this morning that the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, was taking back his words when he told the governors that about 30 billion naira each has gone into state government in the different states, and they are not seeing the impact of that in this thing. Why is he taking back the word? That is the truth. A lot of money has gone into the coffers of state government, but nothing is happening across the states. If you travel around the states, you see it's just like an arrested development. So attention should be focused on local government, state government, and so that they can even simplify government policies and make governance closer to the people so that they can feel the impact. There's so much money they are sharing from federal allocation now. That should be a positive sign to cushion the impact of the subsidy removal, to cushion some state governors are doing so well. Look at Zulum. Look at the number of vehicles he has procured and all of that. You don't get to hear protestations and all of that in Borno State. There are a few state governors are also doing well, but a larger chunk of the of the governors are not using this money, utilizing them to bring governance closer to the people. Local governments are in the hands of governors. It's like they say they operate joint account. Only last week I was reading somewhere when I saw how much accrues to local government. In Edo State, for example, my local government, they wrote 55 billion that they have collected in 2023. And I can tell you that local government did not even see 10 billion. That's the truth. So we need to begin to interrogate some of these things, get more and more citizen participation in the way and manner that governance is being run and service delivery is being delivered at the local level, at the state government level, so that there will be less concentration of attention at the federal level. And that's why you see this decision of Oronsaye report is a step in the right direction. But I will expect that Senator George Akume, the SGF, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, will have to look at those things that are actionable, those that are deliverables, those that can work within our system, within our bureaucracy and all of that, so that it does not become an all-basket kind of scenario. They have to be selective, look at the pros and cons of everyone, because Oronsaye in 2012, the issues that stared him in the face when he was doing this report may have taken a different turn 12 years after. So they need to look at the suitability of this, the applicability of some of these things in terms of running a slim government. It is not about calling the name slim. I want to see it in practice. For example, if 109 senators are to be given vehicles, 109 senators to be given a Land Cruiser, for example, and these Land Cruisers are imported, you can imagine how much pressure that will bear on our naira, because you are going to buy it in dollars. Now, you can also imagine if 360 members of the House of Rep are going to be given vehicles, and these vehicles are all imported. These are some of the things that are, consuming, our resources, because we are going to be buying dollars. The craze for dollars will now be heightened and all of that. So we need to take deliberate and conscious steps to ensure that steps that are being taken are steps that are practical in nature. We can see them, we can feel them. If you have ministers, if you have 48 ministers, if the vehicles you have bought for them are 3 vehicles because they must work and all of that, you can reduce it to 1 and see this period as a gestation period or trying something new in terms of how we contend with public funds. Management of public funds, what the public funds is meant to achieve, what is being spent on, and how we're able to carry a larger population of Nigerians along in terms of policy implementation. Because we need to give concrete explanation, we need to tell the people this is what we are doing and all of that. That's why when I saw that driving here to your studio, I saw that everybody bubbling. Nobody knows whether NLC is on strike today or not. It goes to show that Nigerians believe in this government. They believe in the steps the government is taking to ensure that they address some of these fundamental issues, so that,
right.
because it's not about strike, it is not strike that will bring about development. Strike will rather slow us down. So we need to look at the bigger picture. Where do we go from here? This is what is confronting us as a country. How do we move from the stage we are now to a better stage so that life becomes easier for the ordinary folks out there? So it is not about trying to tie down government, try to frustrate government because you feel that you must go on strike. Strike are vestiges of military dictatorship. Those days when military don't listen to you, they don't care about what happens, that is when strike becomes an option. But in a democracy where there is room for constructive engagement and collective bargaining, where the government is willing to talk at all times, there is invitation today, tomorrow, and next tomorrow. They are inviting labor leaders for them to discuss. Even if they don't agree on the terms, there's still room for further discussion and further dialogue. That is a democracy. That is better than just using strike, sending warning. We are warning strike and all that. I was happy when the TUC pulled out of it in the larger interest of the country, because the less strike we embark on, the better for our polity and the better for our democracy.
Indeed. And I suppose the ordinary, this is really for the smoother running of governance on behalf of the lowliest person in our society. It's all about the people. And when some of those people look at some of these ideas, I was just looking. It would seem logical to them. You might not be a technocrat, but it would seem logical that, for instance, the National Salaries, Income and Wage Commission is to be subsumed under the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, although that would require an amendment by the National Assembly. You then look again at something like, just for example, Border Community Development Agency to become a department under the National Boundary Commission. A lot of those things seem to make common sense. That why were these things separated before? Well, it was what it was. We're not looking back, we're looking forward. And President Tinubu, as you know, he doesn't want to be looking backwards. He's looking forward. He said before, don't feel sorry for me. And in this connection, I was just wondering that, look, I started off by saying that this could have been implemented way back, but it wasn't. And even when the Buhari administration was to look at it, there were reasons given as to why it might not have been the best of times to implement it. One can't but sometimes feel that, look, some of these things that President Tinubu is now having to confront, not excluding the removal of fuel subsidy, if only they had been grappled and if they had dealt with those things back in 8, 7, maybe even 6 years ago, the country would have been in a better place now. But Tinubu has said, don't feel sorry for me, and he's a bold decision taker, and it doesn't matter what people feel now. I think the next step is for the information team of government to go out there and explain it to people. I believe that's where everybody will come along.
You see, I said earlier that you need to look at the trajectory of President Tinubu. It's a product of struggle. He is a renowned pro-democracy activist. When we talk about strike and protest and all of that, those were his articles of trade. He was going around, on the streets protesting against military dictatorship. He was in the forefront of the fight to send the military back to the barracks to give birth to this democracy today. So he's very conversant with the issues. That's why I tell people that rather than NLC, oftentimes trying to go on strike. You don't have to go on strike, when a man who is a product of struggle and strike and protest is at the saddle. The man understands the issues we are talking about. He knows what you are talking about. He's attending to those issues. If he's not attending to them, it's a different ballgame. But he's attending to them to the best of his ability. He's reaching out, he's engaging, because governance is all about, it's a two-way traffic. This is, on the government side, this is what we have. On the other side, this is what you have. Then you sit on a round table to judge, you discuss, you weigh the options and all of that, because we need to build national cohesion. We need to build solidarity across board. And you have a president who understands these dynamics and is attending to them to the best of his ability. I haven't seen a situation where the NLC said there is breakdown in communication or government is unwilling to engage with them. It hasn't come to that. That is a good ingredient for deepening our democracy, for deepening conversation around governance. Because whether you like it or not, when you have a president who understands that protest is injurious to our economy, he will try as much as possible to do that within his power to ensure that the protest does not take place. But, but when you have an NLC that is becoming too much fashionable about strike, they want to go on strike at every time. They don't even, oftentimes, even consider the implication. The last strike they went, people died in the hospital because nobody could attend to them. Some other persons couldn't even get means of livelihood because they couldn't even move from one place to the other and all of that. So you have to look at the consequences of strike and minimize the incidences of going on strike at all times by just little provocation, or even no provocation at all. You have a president who is taking the bull by the horn. He has strong political will. This report of Oronsaye has been lying on the table for 12 good years. For God's sake, he's saying that, okay, I want to implement this one now, set up a small committee to look at it and all of that. That's why I said whether the committee, given 12 weeks, will have to sit back and look at those implementable suggestions and recommendations. If there are others that are requiring amendment to the existing act or the constitution of the country and other things, they will need to be given some time so that becomes effective by intervention of the National Assembly. So you have to ensure that you don't do anything that is illegal. You have to ensure that you follow the provisions of the law. You apply the provisions of the Constitution or other enabling acts and statutes, so that when in the final analysis you are able to, bring all of this together. And even the man who wrote the report is still very much alive. I saw him last week. So you can invite him to also shed light in some aspect that you are not too clear about, so that it is all for the good. It is all for the good of the country. How to deepen conversation around governance, how to enhance our growth and development, how to run a slim government and all that. But like I said, it's not just about running slim government. Don't create unnecessary bureaucracy. Don't create too much of a big manism, which is, a craze in our pantheon here. People want to, look at, want to say, oh, I've been given more powers. I'm now controlling like 6 parastatals and agencies under me. You see the man wielding unnecessary powers and all of that. Because what breeds corruption is the presence of monopoly of powers. That's why they define corruption as monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. Because it is the monopoly of that power of presiding over several parastatals and departments that will impart negatively on your discretionary powers. And when you use your discretion in a way that is self-serving, you will end up not rendering account to those who actually, sent you on that errand ab initio. So, like I said, we need a reformed civil service. I will continue to drum this loud and clear, even to the committee, so that they don't create unnecessary ombudsman in the way and manner they are going to subsume or merge some of these parastatals and agencies with ministries. And like I told you, the PAMSEX must be in tune with the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, so that these incidences of corruption, dipping hands into public till, you see PAMSEC retiring, you see them with so much money and so much resources, and they keep complaining that they don't have money. Meanwhile, they have so much. You see them with properties everywhere. You see them with doing things that are beyond their statutory salaries and all of that. So there's so much to be done. But once the federal government set the tune, I expect this to also percolate down to the state government level and even local government level. There has to be a synergy, between and amongst all these tiers of government, so that we are able to deliver governance to the people. The overriding interest of all of these initiatives, all of these suggestions and recommendations is for life to be better for the average Nigerian. And so if it is going to deepen service delivery, it's going to enhance service delivery to the people, so be it. But where it's going to create unnecessary bottlenecks such that there will be unhealthy rivalries within the status of the individuals who eman all of these departments under somebody, then you have to play down on a bit of them. Because what is most dangerous is for people to just sit down and play the role of saboteurs in the system. And when they play that role, economic predictors and buccaneers will have a way of pillaging our collective till. So we must take into consideration some of these things. And don't forget, as we are now, people are going to start lobbying. Ministers will lobby, PAMSEC will lobby, the head of departments will lobby to ensure that some of these things that are going to be subsumed and this thing is done in such a way that it will favor them. But just like power, one way in, another way out. They will never know as soon as they acquire those powers.
All right. The system